Welcome to another edition of Conversations with CASA, a monthly show produced by Texas CASA that focuses on issues and trends impacting the child welfare system. My name is Vicki Spriggs. I'm the CEO of Texas CASA and your host. My guests today are Katy Bourgeois, Vice President of Systems Advancement with the Texas Alliance of Child and Family Services, and Dr. Valerie Jackson, founder and administrator at Monarch Family Services. Their two organizations are working together to distribute funds to young people who aged out of the foster care system through a program known as Young Adult Pandemic Aid, or PanAid. The deadline for young people to apply for PanAid is coming up in just a couple of weeks, in fact, September 15th, and it's important that we help get the word out. So let's get right to it, and please join me as I welcome Katy Bourgeois and Dr. Valerie Jackson. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So glad to have you here. And, normally we actually spend time interviewing, talking about a program and exploring issues. This time it's going to be very different because we're talking about a very time-specific resource for young people that we actually have to find the young people to get the information to. So let me just start with the first question. It's called PanAid, pandemic. So what are some of the challenges facing young people who aged out of foster care during an era of COVID-19?
What I've observed here on the ground and also in the field is that a lot of young people are caught in between housing. So they are either in between a lease or a rental agreement that's about to expire and they don't have the funds to pay the rent, or they were in a shelter that is now at maximum capacity based on the limited capacity that is available due to COVID-19. And so I would say that homelessness is on the rise for this population more now than ever due to the pandemic. Also, needs such as food, clothing have decreased where there were more available resources by organizations. Everyone's had to downsize or sometimes close due to the pandemic. And so those organizations are no longer available as a resource. So we're having to try to identify outside organizations or either problem solve within the organizations that are existing, such as those that are in the area of for the youth to expand on their services in order for the young people to have this available. And so it's been rather hard, especially in Region 6. It's been rather hard with trying to access resources that are available due to organizations closing or minimizing or downsizing their services.
Yeah, and I guess and not only downsizing, but with so many people suffering from the pandemic, loss of jobs, et cetera, there's more demands on things like food pantries and everything else that used to, all the other resources, community-based, that used to be there to help. Like you said, they're either going under or they're overwhelmed. So thank you for that, Dr. Jackson. Katy, can you tell me how Young Adult Pandemic Aid can help these young people?
Yes, and thank you for having us here. We're very pleased to be talking with you and having this distributed to your network. So Young Adult Pandemic Aid is intended to really be financial support for young adults who have faced challenges during the global pandemic that we are in. And what it does is it provides an opportunity for young adults to fill in an application. If you're 18 to 26 years old and have aged out of foster care, you can apply for funding to reimburse some of the expenses that you have had during the time that really spans from April 2020 until the end of September 2021. And the number of things that we can reimburse is quite substantial. To Dr. Jackson's point about homelessness being an issue, we can provide support for rent. If you are overdue, if a young adult is overdue on rent, or just needs to be reimbursed because it was a financial hardship to pay their rent, we can cover that. We can cover expenses that a young adult had related to food, related to buying the equipment they need to keep themselves safe. In some cases, even costs you might have had to take care of social isolation issues. So the young adult can apply for this reimbursement, and then through an approval process, we get verified that a young adult did age out of care by the Department of Family and Protective Services. And then we share that information with a network of community organizations that we're calling our fund distribution partners. And the fund distribution partners then distribute reimbursement in the form of checks, cash cards, direct deposit. What an individual needs may depend on their situation and the organizations, but the young adult will receive funding to reimburse them for these expenses. And for the time being, in the initial round, what we're saying is up to $1,000 in expenses we can reimburse, but we are asking all young adults to share with us their full reimbursement need, because if more money becomes available or fewer young adults come forward, and so we have fewer young adults for the same pot of money, we'll be able to come back and lift that amount up beyond the $1,000 cap. And then the second benefit that's available through this is if you happen to be between the ages of 21 and 26, there's also a $500 stimulus payment. And for that $500 for the young adult, that's in addition to the $1,000 reimbursement. And it doesn't require any previous expenses at all. It is just a $500 stimulus payment that they are eligible to receive if they've aged out of care and they're between 21 and 26. The last piece of information I'd love to share is that we are asking for receipts from young adults, but if they don't have them, they just attest to the fact that the expense was made. And so we're trying to keep the burden low.
Super, thank you. In fact, I was going to ask you if receipts were needed, because I have a couple of questions that build off of what you just said. Does it make a difference when the young person transitioned out of foster care?
No, they just have to be, but it's the age range.
Right.
They have to have aged out. They can't have been adopted, for instance, or returned home. They have to have aged out, and they have to be between 18 and 26 during that time frame of April 20th to the end of this month, or the end of next month, end of September.
Super, thank you. Your reference to an initial round, that's where you were saying that if all that money's not gone, you can come back and put some more money in the pot. Super, thank you. I just want to be really, really clear as we go through this, because I know for some people sitting and listening, they're going to think $1,000, $1,500, you know, what kind of difference does that make? It makes a huge difference. It is, if you're on the street or getting ready, you're facing eviction, or you're on the street already, it makes a huge difference. If you don't have food, it makes a huge difference. If you're struggling to make ends meet, we all know it makes a huge difference. Dr. Jackson, can you tell us where young people can go to find more information and apply?
Yes, we have two options. They can visit the website of the Alliance at tacfs.org, and you can click on PanAid, or they can visit monarchfamilyservices.com, and it's a link that says young adult application, PanAid application. And so they can visit either website and find out more information on how to apply. We made the application as simple as possible. It'll take maybe 5 minutes or less, and they can get it done, and we will figure out partnering a distribution partner that they will be working with if they're not already affiliated with a distribution partner. And then it kind of goes from there. So.
And the distribution partner, again, you're using terminology because you all talk about this, you know it, but people who are watching don't know a thing. So a distribution partner would be the entity that issues checks or the money cards, or is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, so in the 11 regions, we have or attempted to identify distribution partners just to make it more accessible for the young adult to be able to connect with and also receive their payment that they're applying for. And so these are organizations that have went through application process with us. They've been awarded in order to be a distribution partner in those regions.
Thank you. This, again, is an unusual recording for us. This, again, we normally are talking about programmatic issues and how we can get aid but this is a very time-sensitive, very needed given the circumstances, the pandemic, and now the various divergent strains of the virus. Can you talk about why it's important and what local CASA program viewers should do with this information?
Sure. The thing that we have learned from national organizations who are studying the distribution of this money is that the best way to get the money into the hands of young adults and them applying for it is by connecting with trusted individuals who contact them and say, here's an opportunity, it's authentic, it's true, please apply because it can help you. And so we are treating this in a sense as a call to action by everybody that we come into contact with who may have connection with these young adults, because we know they may not be in our traditional network of communication. So if you are in communication with a young adult, if you are in communication with an organization that is in communication with young adults, we would so appreciate your sharing this opportunity and reaching out as much as possible individually through email, text, whatever mechanism you have available to you, to these young adults to say, PanAid is here, it's real, and we would encourage you to apply. And if you're able, be on the phone with them as they're applying in case there's any questions, just as much as we can do. And Vicki, to reiterate, part of the importance of this is we have received emails from young adults that have said, I am facing eviction tomorrow. I need this money now. I don't have any food to eat. I need the support now. It's heartbreaking, but we find it such a wonderful opportunity we have to try to help these young adults too. So whatever help folks can provide, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Again, thank you both so much for being with us today. Thank you so much for making a very clear call to action for all viewers. Share this information, get it out there, not just within the CASA network, but anyone you know who works with a youth serving organization or might have any level of contact with a young person exiting care or who exited care. It's not very often the federal or even local government steps forward to help people in this kind of way, and certainly not in these kinds of unusual circumstances. So please, please, please get that message out. Again, Dr. Jackson, Katy, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And for all of you watching, heed this call to action, please. Thank you for joining us this time. I hope to see you next month on the next edition of Conversations with CASA.